Welcome. Speaking today to our very own Catherine King, who heads up our brand and community, our Vision Group. Given it is Mental Health Awareness Week, we thought it would be a good idea to have a good conversation around what that implies, and I guess the importance of community, especially within the data analytics world where data leadership figures can feel very lonely and isolated. Which is one of the fundamental reasons why we do what we do on the community side of our business. So, Catherine, thank you for joining us.
That's all right. Thanks for having me. And yeah, this is such an important topic and something that I know we're all here at All Vision incredibly passionate about for sure. And as you teed up very nicely there straight away, that the challenges are, especially in the data space, that so many of our leaders who are part of our wider community could be maybe the only leader in their organizations. So the challenges that they're experiencing day to day, they've got no one else to turn to, because if they look towards the business and start having quite technical discussions, they're not going to get that kind of resonance of challenge. And we all know it's not appropriate or professional to moan downwards. You don't want to be moaning into people who report into you. And let's be honest, I say moan, and I'm not saying that flippantly. We all need a space to vent and to air our stresses in a place that is safe to do so. And I think, thankfully, we do offer that quite well in our community.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it's one of the interesting things. Obviously, we've been at this community piece for a long time now, right? And I think one of the fascinating things is the feedback will often be, "Oh, I didn't realize that we've kind of all got the same problems." I think people kind of feel like they live in this little bubble where it's only them that are experiencing those pains and those problems, and then they go into a bigger environment and it's like, oh, actually, even these big companies with these huge logos and brands that everybody recognize, that person who works there doing my job has got the same frustrations, challenges, pains, etc. And obviously that can take its toll on people in various different ways.
Absolutely. And that's exactly it. Taking that mental health lens, it is really important to realize you aren't alone in these challenges. And it's really, really helpful to hear other people are going through this experience, but also to hear about the solutions and how people are working them through as well. Because you don't just want to hear that you're all in the same sinking ship, but equally how people are getting themselves off the sinking ship. And that can be in so many different ways, and obviously organizations are always unique and different, and that approach may not work exactly for you, but it's important to hear from other people how that works. But what I think is really interesting about our community, and something that in the activities that we do around that, are where people come into it expecting something, or they have a certain desire. So take our mentorship, for example, right? People sign up to our mentorship and they say, yep, I really want to brush up on this skill. And it tends to be a practical skill. And what they end up doing across the 12 months that they're with us in this partnership is having a completely different experience, because they've met this data person, they've connected on many different things in the way that we partner people together, and they realize actually that skill, that practical skill, wasn't anything to do with their challenge. It was imposter syndrome, or it was a soft skill that they need to develop, and it's a communication skill. It's not that they're not good enough at Python, or they're not good enough at the practical stuff. It's that they may be struggling with the communication and the selling side of things as well. But they didn't know that until they came and spoke in a safe space in a community of people who are all dealing with the same sorts of challenges. And obviously the huge benefit of our mentorship is you're accessing people who are a few years ahead in their career. So chances are they will have experienced the challenges that you're experiencing right now.
Yeah, 100%. I think think through the pillars of the community that we do. Obviously, like things like the podcast are great for sharing knowledge and wisdom and so on and so forth at scale, which then kind of redacts a little bit, and the setting becomes a little bit more intimate as soon as you get into an event space, right? Because then those conversations can become a little bit more real and tangible and interactive. And then even then with the mentorship, it gets more redacted and intimate again, because then you can really open up and say, actually, because if you sat in a room with 60 CDOs, obviously you can air some frustrations, but there's probably only so much you're willing to air, right? Which I think is important. I mean, obviously mental health as a topic has become, showing my age here, but when I was a kid, like no, like it wasn't a thing. Like it didn't even have a label. I don't think. Not maybe medically, but not
Yeah.
not in society. Um, and I think it's really good. It's a really good thing that we acknowledge that now. And as you say, when you bring it back to the day to day, most data leaders are in a position where, as you very rightly said, they can't be airing their frustrations with their bosses and their stakeholders equally. They don't want to put that pressure on their team all that much. So yeah, bringing people together so that they can kind of work through those challenges and find solutions is important. So, what do you think out of all of the stuff we're doing then? Like, how does this help? Do you think at a kind of high level?
Well, I think it helps from an innovation standpoint, right? Getting people together, talking about their challenges is always going to offer solutions and breed innovation naturally. But equally, I think it's going to help people realize their potential. And I mentioned imposter syndrome earlier. It's amazing to me how many people don't go for opportunities who absolutely would qualify, but they put that their own glass ceiling above their head because they go, oh no, I'm not good enough to be in that organization, or I'm not going to ask for that promotion because I haven't learned X, Y, and Z. And we know this disproportionately impacts people of color. We know it impacts women. We know it impacts basically anyone who is not a white straight male, unfortunately, does experience this disproportionately. So by coming into a community that hypes you up, and I must admit we do have some really cool community members who should, I think, in another life would be brilliant cheerleaders, because they come in and they go, you absolutely could go for that promotion, or you absolutely should go and apply for that job, because the worst thing they can say is not right now.
Yeah.
And dealing with that imposter syndrome and all the various other attributes that come along with that kind of mindset, it can really help push people forwards. And that can only be a good thing, right? If we've got the right people going off and doing amazing things, this is going to seriously help. And we know that a wider challenge of all of what we're talking about today is that as the growth of AI continues and the ethical considerations, we need a diverse set of people around that table approaching things with a unique perspective, a different perspective for the greater good of society. So, not trying to blow this thing up too much, but if you have people who have the confidence and the wellness to go into these spaces, it's going to benefit us all. So coming into a community like ours and being able to speak to people and to grow your own confidence, I think is just always going to be a really good thing.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it goes beyond work often, right? Obviously, you can segment your kind of time at work and how that impacts you physically and mentally. But we've had so many people, success stories, if you want to call them that, of people that have been in our community that have ended up becoming really good friends, right? So I know we're working on a few things that are probably kind of case study style where, people have flown across the country to meet, flown across the world to meet their mentor or mentee, and things like that. So it becomes much deeper than just kind of get in a room and learn and share my frustrations and vent and hear what other people are doing. There is a bigger play here, and look, that's not to say that everyone's going to become BFFs and be best man and chief bridesmaids at weddings and whatnot, but like that does become a part of it, right? I think that's one of the great things about the data analytics community more broadly is that because it is so insular, most people do know each other or know of somebody that will be there or know of someone that will have been or have participated. And I think that's also something else to kind of call out is that, we always are trying and looking for ways to include more people. I think, if we're really honest together sat here now, that's always been one of our challenges, right? Because there's only so many people you can fit around a room, fit around a table, fit around a conference, fit into a mentorship cohort. Like it's how do you attract more diverse people into this, which I think would probably be good for us to talk about in a bit more detail, actually, now, now I think about it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just want to go back to what you were saying about the fact that we're not one dimensional, right? We're not just coming into this as a data leader. You are a parent, you are possibly a carer for your aging parents themselves. You have all of these other things going on in your life, and that's going to impact work as well, right? So, as you say, being able to connect with other people and hear about the struggles of trying to get to that board meeting at 9 a.m., but you've got to do the school run first and all the rest of it, coming together in a safe place where you can talk about these challenges, again, that disproportionately impacts certain members of our community. It can be really, really good to hear how people are handling those challenges, but also just that overall feeling of you're not alone, you're not going through this by yourself, and it is experienced by so many other people as well.
Yeah, 100%. Probably be worth us breaking down the things that we do then from a community lens, so that people can get a grip of that. Because I think that's one of the things that I've learned. I want to say the hard way, not the hard way, but I guess you think that because someone is interested in one thing, that automatically they will want to get involved in everything, and often we
Yeah.
find that's not the case, right? There's a kind of cherry picking element to this that is the most appropriate at that at that moment in time, which is
Yeah.
absolutely fair.
And you know
Yeah,
what? I don't think it's even cherry picking. I think it's also about what works for your life, right? I'm based in South Wales, you're based in Manchester. Chances are we're only going to meet at a finite events across the year, right? If you're both based in London, chances are you're going to want to meet and see each other more regularly. So just based on the physical things of what can you get involved in, that's going to impact what you choose. But it's a really great point. So what are we doing in the community? And I want to stress straight away that when I say community and when we say community, we don't just mean an email list. And yes, that is a slight burn on other organizations that talk about this amazing community they have. But in reality, what they mean is a set of people that they send a newsletter to, which, fair play, that is the start for many organizations on their way to a community. But in terms of actual activities that people get involved in, they are active participants. We've got quite a few. So we've mentioned the mentorship. So our mentorship is for senior data leaders to come and access, to be mentees or mentors, or in fact, we have a few people who are both. And it's a really, really relaxed structure. So we don't provide too much infrastructure because, again, so many people come into this for a whole variety of reasons. It could be, I want to, level up on this particular skill, or it could just be, I want to access someone's career and know about their journey and how I can move forward in my own. We match those people together based off of a rather chunky survey that we get people to fill in, as well as an interview over the phone, because we want to make sure that people are really bought into this, because at the end of the day, you are taking time away from your very busy days to access this program. So both sets in the partnership need to be fully bought into it. So that's the mentorship, runs for 12 months. And then after that, generally speaking, it carries on for people. But from our perspective, we say, right, that partnership is done and you can go back into the program again and access a new mentee or a new mentor. But as you said, most people land up really great friends and they still catch up very, very regularly, even after the 12 months has finished. So that's the mentorship. We also run our wonderful events. We do virtual events on LinkedIn where we have people come in via the world of Zoom, and they chat about all the great big challenges that they have at the moment, and people join us in the audience virtually. But probably a little bit more importantly to this, we have our physical events. We have our quarterly roundtable events that happen in London, and we also have our one bigger event each year, which is going to be happening for the very first time in October, our data-driven live event, which gives our audience a chance to come in at great numbers and connect and chat in real great detail in a closed Chatham House rule environment about what's going on for them, with amazing leaders taking to the stage to kind of lead that conversation forwards. So that's the mentorship, the events, and then we have all of our content opportunities as well, where people can come and get involved in producing thought-led content, and that goes out to our community. And people are able to connect with the authors and chat further and ask questions, which I absolutely love about all of our contributors, whether it be for the magazine or for our weekly blogs, is the opportunity to have that feedback loop, that kind of active participation in the community, which is really fun.
Yeah, 100%. I think the content stuff is is interesting, right? Because if you wrap that around the community stuff, that kind of bleeds out all of that knowledge and information, right? That people can access when they want it or when they need it, you know. So obviously we do like a lot of research reports, right, out of that quite now large and significant number of data leaders and chief data officers and stuff like that, that we will, you know, build research campaigns around specific topics, which is obviously hopefully really insightful. There's the newsletter, there's white papers, you know, there's obviously the podcast, which is an audio based thing. But I think, yeah, that kind of underpins it. And it's all, you know, I think you described it to me quite well previously, where this is like a layered thing, right? You know, you've got the content at the top, and then if you want to become, sounds weird, but want to become more intimate and kind of get into the rooms, the right rooms, you know, there's layers then beneath it, which make, you know, down to events, which are bigger events, even smaller events, very small events, through to, you know, mentorship, one-on-one. I think it's worth noting that the mentorship, obviously, that's a free program, right? If I'm really honest, and this probably stands for most of the things that we've done, I'm surprised we've gotten as far with them as we have. I'd be probably lying if I said, you know, it was sat here for me as this kind of like genius mastermind stroke that we're going to have this mentorship program that's going to run for all of these cohorts and have all of these hundreds of people involved, right? So that's a free program. And as I think it's a very good point that you made earlier about people's life situations can often dictate what's relevant for them. So as you said, we have people that will turn around to us and say, I want to be mentored with somebody in London because I love face-to-face and I'd rather meet them for a coffee or lunch or dinner or a glass of wine or whatever the case may be. Or someone might be like, you know, saying to us, well, we know that these types of businesses in the US are a bit further along the maturity journey, and I'm not bothered about face-to-face. I'm time zones, you know, I can work around that. So, you know, I'd love to be paired with someone out in the States or out in Singapore or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it's a free program, 9th cohort, soon to go live, which will take us to, I think, close to 600 people, if not surpass that, in or around. So yeah, loads of opportunity there for sure. So how does this bleed for you back into Mental Health Awareness Week? I know we've touched upon the high level kind of linkage, but it'd be good to dive deeper.
I think overall, and kind of linking the community in with the content piece, it's that sense of belonging. It's being kind of part of that club. I mean, lots of people now know of the Driven by Data branding that obviously sits alongside Orbition, and it's a case of knowing that you're part of something. Even if you just listen to the podcast each week and you listen and it resonates and you hear the challenges that guest is going through, or you hear the successes and you think, yeah, that's something that we're working on as well. That sense of belonging can just be so helpful when you're in the throes of what is such a turbulent time for data leaders, right? Everyone is now a data expert. Everyone is talking about AI, no matter your background. I mean, you know, you and I were talking only the other day about how our parents have been using ChatGPT for weird and random things. And you just think, oh God, now everyone is now data driven, which is fantastic in some ways. But it does pile on the challenges in many others. And that, you know, goes inside all of the other complex challenges that we know that data leaders are dealing with day in and day out. So just that sense of belonging, coming along to a community, especially in events. And it's lovely when you see people stood around networking, talking about the real challenges. And you mentioned earlier, often with data events, they're fabulous content. It's great. You know, you watch these presentations, you think, oh, that's really cool. That person steps off of stage and then you get the real story, right? You get in the networking space, you actually get what's really going on and the challenges, which for obvious reasons, they cannot stand up on stage and talk about in such a plain way. I'm fairly certain they would never be allowed to speak ever again if they did. But the fact that they're able to have that space in our networking sessions is really, really important for their well-being and for others as well. So I think I'm really glad that the Mental Health Awareness Week is talking about community, because I know in our own personal lives, we see so much value from that in the charities and the organizations we're involved in. And it feels really good for me personally, working on that in my day job as well, and being able to provide that environment for people, because I do genuinely believe it makes a difference.
Yeah, yeah. I think the other thing to note before we finish is obviously we wrap around kind of opportunity or mechanisms for engagement and chat, right? So we have different WhatsApp channels for the different groups that people belong to, and obviously there's a lot of overlap. So because as an example, we've had some people that are involved in practically everything that we do, right? So they've been a guest on the podcast, they come to our events, they've written for our magazine, they've written blogs for us. They've done research for us. They've contributed to our newsletter. They're mentors in the mentorship program, yada, yada, yada. The list goes on. But fundamentally, we give them a space where they can interact. And I think, that's one thing that we've seen probably a lot of actually over the last 12 months, more so than any other time, is the activity in those chats being probably a little bit more frequent, and the dialogue being probably a lot more depth to the chat in there, so a lot of very pointed questions that will go in. I'm experiencing this challenge. Has anyone had to overcome this before? And all of a sudden you get 10, 15 responses from some of the biggest, best known CDOs in the country, right? Which is a pretty unique, and again that kind of almost fills a bit of a middle ground between sitting in a room with 60 data leaders and a one-to-one mentorship program to be in a WhatsApp chat where you can just get access to people. So I think that's an important thing to know.
And it goes back to the point I made around accessibility, which is something that I'm really keen on, and that it can feel very gatekept. Like if you're not in London and you're not able to attend a full day conference, or you're not able to attend, some bougie roundtable that's happening at 7 p.m, then you're being kept out of those discussions. And, we have seen historically activities that are put on, go and play a game of golf for the day. That does cater to a set of in our community for certain, but not really the majority. So I think by offering a range of ways that community can happen, and I say community in kind of that more conceptual way, whether it is just being within one of our communication channels and you have access, like you say, to some of the best CDOs in the UK and beyond, or whether you do physically attend our events, there is a range, and it means that the accessibility piece is far more open. And I'm definitely sure there's more we can do, and I'm always open to hear that. And we have our advisory board who are fantastic at steering us and making sure that we are doing the most we can do, and I'm always keen to grow. But I do think that we are certainly doing a pretty good job at the moment to make sure that everyone can access our community in some way, and then, as we said, the benefits that they see from that hopefully do make a difference.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, linking it to Mental Health Awareness Week, the event that we're hosting in October will be our big annual event. Mind is one of the chosen charities for that, which we're proud to be supporting, which is good. Anything we want to finish on then? Any announcements? Any what's to come? What to watch out for? Any final bits?
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be a video without an announcement, would it? We are and in the lens of community, we are slowly working with our development team in the background for something really exciting that's hopefully going to absolutely blow the online community up even further, with the ability to connect our mentorship program in with our communication channels. And I'm not going to say too much more on it, but we are working very, very hard in the background. And I think it's going to really, really, really resonate and help everything that we've spoken about here today.
Yep. Perfect. Cool. All right. Well, looking forward to seeing what comes out of that and how that is received. But yeah, thank you very much for your time. And I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
We've mixed things up this time, so everybody got given a table number when you came in. Can everyone make their way to the table you were given, please?
I've been coming to the events, I think since the days when there was like 10 of us, and it's grown from 10 to like 50 plus. And the event to be at, I think there's a waiting list to get into this event.
I'm here at tonight's roundtable to meet other like-minded data professionals to discuss some of the pertinent issues of our industry, also to have a good time and eat very small sandwiches.
Today
there's a lots of things that you can take away by talking with people, and the roundtable events are perfect for that.
The discussions are really in-depth. There's a lot of knowledge sharing and a lot of laughs, and it just really is a really fun, informal place. It's brilliant.